in a garage sale find right here and an estate sale find here, and they are together $23. I'm gonna do some cleaning up on them and a bit of spray painting on one, and then some detailed work on the other. Hopefully, they'll turn out to be some pretty cute plant stands. First things first, got to clean everything off. I'm using a simple spray of 50% water and 50% vinegar. But then the glass had some other stuff on it, not exactly sure what. But this razor blade kind of did the trick on that. And I'm being careful. I'm not scratching up the glass. I'm doing definitely a side push on it. And after I finished using the razor blade, I went back and again cleaned everything off. Now, when it came to the base, I decided to get creative. I used the top of the drill and, well, this idea, not a good one. Yeah, it ended up splattering more on me than it did on anything else. So I went back to just a scrub brush and the borax. Now, my least favorite part of every project has to be sanding. Sanding is tedious, considered dangerous, and, well, all in all, usually hard and annoying to do. However, I will give props to skinny spindled things. They make sanding not so bad because they're kind of easier to do. But you still need all the protective wear because, after all, it's sandy. The other surprise part was that this looks like this thing's made of brass. Unfortunately, the brass was still in pretty bad shape. Enter the spray paint, which is in a lovely aubergine color. Now, the initial plan was just to stop at this point, but then I had an idea. Now, I learned the hard way from another project that the oil of my skin on glass can really mess a finish up. So now, before I do anything else with this decoupage project on this glass, I'm going to use some rubbing alcohol first to get the glass cleared off, and then we'll begin reverse decoupage. Took a long time trying to match up the pattern. It's kind of funny that I'm doing a reverse decoupage technique because I kind of did a lot of things in this reverse. Like, it wasn't until after I had painted the base that I decided, ooh, I want a decoupage. Because let's face it, finding something that you like in print or a fabric and then finding a paint to match it is super easy. Finding a paint you like and then turning around and trying to get, say, a print or a fabric to match it, not so easy. I did get lucky though. I found this beautiful little bit of gift wrapping tissue paper that I thought, oh great, I can decoupage this. It wasn't until after I bought this and it matched perfectly with the paint that I found out that when decoupaging with tissue paper, you shouldn't use gift tissue paper. But then I think I got lucky because I went and I checked. This is regular tissue paper and it's so much thinner than what's in here. So I think I might be okay. We're about to find out. All right, so I've laid out the pattern. I have a pretty good idea what I want. Now, normally, if you were gonna just do this the normal way, you would use a Mod Podge decoupage. But because I'm gonna try the iron technique, I'm actually gonna use a polyacrylic. Now, if you're gonna do this technique on, say, a piece of wood, you would do 2 layers of it just to make sure that you got it really well covered. However, because glass is so non-porous, maybe a big mistake happening right here, I just went with one really thick layer because I did try a second layer and things started to peel off and I had to just go back and just do one thick layer. I let the acrylic dry for a couple of hours. Then I got out my iron and I put it just above acrylic in temperature wise. I had read in some places it was supposed to be around 200, 250 for the temp on the iron. This seemed to work, and I just slowly, carefully went through the whole thing, ironing the paper flat. Okay, judging from a couple of wrinkles I'm seeing there, I am not the best at ironing. Now it's time to just sand off the excess. This was super easy, 60 grit. It came off great. And then it's time for a top coat. This is where things got scary. Okay, now everything I read said, yeah, don't worry, it bubbles up if you get it with your top coat again. Um, I think this is a little excessive on the bubbling. Oh, yeah, I don't think this is working. Well, I'm happy to report after a few hours of drying, a lot of those bubbles came out, but still, it wasn't that great. And yeah, I know I didn't do the best job ironing, but come on. And then somehow I scratched it. But I'm going to do some other techniques, so maybe it won't be as bad. Besides, when you flip it over, it looks pretty good when you flip it around to the side that's going to be seen. Now, I am going to paint it so it will look more like this than it will like this. So it's a reverse technique, and I wanted to make it look like it had a bit of a lattice work. So I had to do stripes going one direction, and then I'm going to go back through into the other direction. Right here, you'll see I'm spraying over these loosely placed on pieces of it's an old magazine I cut up and taped on and just eyeballed it. But very light spray painting. I hate that that one is blowing up. I'm trying not to get underneath the paper, and luckily it didn't. I took off the strips and then I waited for it to dry, and then I placed the strips on in reverse order, going, well, the opposite way. After that dried, it was time for some chalk paint to go over everything on the back. Once again, most but not all of the bubbles dissipated after the paint dried. So now I'm getting it wet again, but this is with the top coat. I'm gonna do two of these, and yeah, that's even requiring a light sand in between them, because that's how those polys attach to each other is with a little teeth. I'm pretty sure the iron-on technique would work a little bit better with, say, fabric, but not so much with this. It's still pretty wrinkly, but the cool thing is the other side looks just fine. And that's the important part, and that's what I'm thrilled with. I did the faux lattice work. The reason you do so many layers and layers of different paint when you're working with decoupage, I have now come to realize, is it covers occasional flaws and wrinkles and bubbles and rips. Because if you look at the back of this, it's looking nasty. I should talk. But I'm going to go ahead and finish it now with some polyurethane, primarily because I have it. I would love it if I had one of the waterproof spray-on ones, but again, that's real toxic kind of stuff and super odor, and I'm not a fan. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the polyurethane. Going back to the little plant stand that's been cleaned and lightly sanded, I am just touching up with the matte white. Getting some inspiration from some real flowers, I decided to brighten up the piece by adding some details to the flowers on it. This is actually the most relaxing thing for me to do. It's my comfort zone. I love painting detail. I started out with a green rim that all the flowers in the pictures seem to have, and then I kind of varied it up with different varieties of yellow and yellow gold to do the centers. everyone's way to go, but what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to do a flat matte finish on everything that's white. But because I love the little flowers, instead of a matte finish, I'm going to do a gloss so that they'll pop a little. And here we have our finished piece. Really pleased. This hold up, full disclosure. So the next day after this, I went ahead and put this table by the screen and where it would get light for the plants. And unfortunately, the morning dew would make it bubble up all over again. But what I should have done, I've learned now, was use this kind of top coat. It is another one that's real stinky. You got to use a brush you can throw out unless you want to go through all the cleaning stuff, but it is water resistant. It is for outdoor uses. So instead of using that though, I went ahead and just slid the table close to the wall, and now it works perfectly. We just put different plants on it. Okay, and here's the other piece. I think this turned out super cute and I'm really thrilled with it, and it has no bubbling problems whatsoever. If you could, please subscribe, and thanks for watching.